It doesn't matter how much you know. What really matters is how much they learn. Of all the strategies and suggestions we've given you in this video series so far, the most difficult for people that have the emotions that both Brian and myself share is letting go. In his book, Brian says, "As a father, every time my daughters came to me for help with school projects, as a speaker and teacher, every time I encountered hard skeptics who choose to push away ideas I know could elevate the quality of their lives, I must discipline myself to let go." Let's close this video with a great story from Brian Biro himself.
Of all life's lessons, perhaps the toughest one for me personally to really learn and seek to master is the one that's called letting go. It's tied into things like patience and understanding. See, I'm a let's go get it, let's make it happen, let's take charge kind of guy. But I got to tell you, letting go is sometimes the most powerful way to let others grow. And I have a short little story, but it's a wonderful story, true story, that really opened my eyes and my spirit to the possibility that I could learn to let go in a better way. And for many years in the kind of rural section of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, there's been a camp that's been run for disabled children. And it is a great camp. It's a real simple concept. It's kind of out in the boonies in the forest, and they have about 20 kids every year. And the whole concept of this camp is that for 3 days, these children who have all kinds of disabilities, some of them are physically handicapped, most of them have some mental challenges, emotional challenges, many blind kids, many deaf kids. But one of the big things about this camp, the real essence of it is that all these kids for 3 days are to do the things that everybody does for them. In other words, they're to dress themselves, prepare meals, clean up, things that may be difficult, very difficult for them, things that you and I, tying a shoe that would take 30 seconds, 5 seconds, maybe take 10, 15 minutes, an hour. But the whole concept is you can do more than you think you can do. And the camp has been tremendously successful. Well, one year they had their 20 kids and there's assigned roles and the counselors really get into it. And the culmination of this camp is on the very last afternoon, on the Sunday afternoon. All day long, the kids' big challenge is they prepare a big turkey feast, a whole turkey dinner. Mashed potatoes, stuffing, the whole bit. And each child has their job. Well, everything was done. All the kids, 19 of the kids, are sitting in the dining room at the end of this long hallway that attached to the kitchen. The last thing that needs to be done is for this giant platter full of turkey to be carried into the dining room by the child who's assigned that task. Well, the head counselor, without even thinking, takes this giant, just overflowing platter full of turkey, turns and hands it to the little girl who's been assigned the job of carrying the turkey into the room. Well, he gives it to her without thinking. Well, it's a little girl, 11 years old, with very severe cerebral palsy, very spastic in her movements. And that weight of that platter is so heavy for her that as he put it in her hand, she practically dropped it. But she tried to gather herself. She held it up, all right, and she started turning because she's intent. She knows her job. Her job is to take that platter into that dining room. She turns and she starts to make her way down that hall. And as soon as he saw her start moving towards that hall, he thought to himself, all of a sudden it hit him like a rocket ship, oh my gosh, that's dinner. And he knows who she is. She'll never make it. And so he started to go to her to relieve her of this burden. And right as he was about to take it away, she did not notice him, so intent was she on her job. But right as he was about to take away that platter, after all, he knows who she is. Something caught his eye. And thank goodness it caught his eye. And what it was, as he was about to reach around her and take the platter, he looked ahead of him, and what he saw was the other 19 kids sitting at the dining table, absolutely glued, watching her make her way down that hallway. And they were absolutely tied to her, their eyes as big as saucers, watching their little teammate making it down that hall. And as he was about to take it away, that sight clicked something inside of his spirit that said to him, let it go. And so he stepped back and he kind of held his breath. Well, that little girl tried to make down that hall. And I'll tell you, it must have taken her 5 minutes. 2 times it was so heavy and she was so off balance that she almost lost it. She fell against the wall. A little bit of turkey fell on the floor. But she kept going. She knew her job. Her arms were shaking from the weight. And finally, she made it into that dining room. After it seemed like an eternity. She made it in. With every ounce of her strength, she set that platter of turkey down on the counter. And when she set that platter down, those other 19 children stood up and they gave her a standing ovation. And at that moment, the counselor burst into tears. And he thought to himself, what did I almost do? I almost took it away. What's the worst that could have happened? You drop it, you pick it up, you wipe it off. You've done it before. What's the best that can happen from letting go? You allow someone to discover that there's more in them than they ever thought before. Now, all of us who love our children, all of us who care about the people around us, have been raised with the thought our number one job is to take care of them. But you know, sometimes the most important role in taking care is to let go. Because that's when they discover who they really are. Abraham Lincoln said the worst thing you can do for somebody are the things that he could or should do for himself. When you take away, you allow people to miss out on the glorious window of opportunity called self-discovery. So think about it. Who in your life do you need to let go for? Who in your life do you need to allow to do something their way, to figure it out, to let them go? How many times in your life have you tried to take control of it with a real desire to help them, only to discover that they lost their own faith in themselves because you were trying to do too much for them? I keep working on this one every day, and my favorite part of telling you this story is to remind myself that if I want my children to be self-motivated, which is the only kind of motivation, then I have to let them go. And I have to allow them to find their way, to discover their path. And you know what? They will.